let's say you found a skeleton. How would you tell it's a Dapper? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dapper Reacts number 132. Billy Carson and White Supremacy, Debunking Evolution with, Nazi Pseudoscience. Which is a title that demands some explanation, I think. But first, I want to say hello to Vishanti. Hello, Vishanti.
Hello.
And we normally have Kip here, but Kip is having some non-emergency but family things going on, which may either delay or preclude his participation. Nothing bad is happening. These are good things that are happening, but they are preventing his present participation. So, there has been a lot of family stuff that's come up around my streams, and not all of it's been good, but this one is not bad, so I just want to... everything's fine. Which I think is about as much as I want to say before, without, violating any kind of privacy, right? So for those of you who may be disappointed that we didn't play Star Trek Adventures last night, yes, we did have a couple medical things come up. One of our players was extremely ill and had been spending most of the day in bed. And another one had to rush off to the hospital for a family member, and that is as much as I'm going to say there. I'm not going to say who is who, because it is up to them to reveal any of that to themselves, but for that reason, we decided to, we just couldn't go on with a large chunk of the players not going to be there. But in lieu of that, there will be a update to what is going on with the crew that should be coming out hopefully today, maybe tomorrow. It depends on Chesh. Chesh needs to put a comm badge on one of the character portraits. So if you care about Star Trek Adventures, you should all go DM Chesh and ask her how the comm badge is going. She will love that, I promise. So that's what's going on over for that kind of stuff. Vishanti, what do you got to drink today? Because we got 15 drinks, and I'm going to start drinking while you talk.
Black coffee. Just black coffee.
No sugar, no anything?
That's what I meant by black.
Hey.
Yep.
Well, I am drinking sort of an ersatz gimlet. I really like gimlets. They're a bit too strong for me to drink here, so this one has been watered down a little bit, and it's on the rocks, which is not normally how you would serve a gimlet, but I need to be able to drink this more than once or twice before I finish what is basically 3 shots worth of gin. So, and also I didn't actually have simple syrup, so the way I watered it down was I just made basically half-strength syrup just in the microwave and cooled that down, because I forgot to make simple syrup, and I was too lazy to make it myself. This morning. So, that's what that is. So I have taken 3 drinks because we have recently received a number of drink triggers. Actually, just another one just now, so let's add one more. So let's see, we've got Ben Luklik Fungus Thick Tunagit, there we go. He's been a member for 28 months, gifted 10 memberships. And then Dinosaurian Dude gifted 5. And then Pegajace, the Pasta Apostate, says, can't stick around for this one, but AIG is a rucksack of Richards. That they are. And Dinosaurian Dude for €6 says, AIG is a bagged mass of members, which again, also true. So, Vishanti, why don't you tell everyone either what's up, or why it is that Trip Tucker is the best Star Trek character?
I wouldn't make that case.
That's your assigned case, though. This is like debate club.
I wouldn't feel that I could make a compelling argument for that. I mean, certainly he is a very good character, but the best Star Trek character, that's quite a hill to climb there.
Just do what creationists do.
So
only use things that support their case and completely ignore the existence of all the overwhelming evidence against it.
Yeah, well, that's just your opinion, man.
Yeah, have you thought about nuh-uh?
Exactly. Just nuh-uh.
Yep. Well, I'm only have 2 drinks left, so you don't have to worry about it too much longer.
Okay.
But there we go. I just took the
I was
2.
just anyway.
Sorry,
all right.
Trip Tucker.
I mean, I like Trip.
I did like
Just,
it when a sexy character in Star Trek Lower Decks was described as being a Kirk Sundae with Trip Tucker sprinkles. Which
good.
was great. If you haven't seen Lower Decks and you're a Star Trek fan, go watch Lower Decks. It's a lot of fun, in my opinion. Liz with numbers, who's been a member for 50 month, I can read, says, "Look, I have a milestone chat. I hope I don't waste it. And AIG is a bag of Kenthovens. You did not waste it, and we will take a drink." Okay, so we are here taking a look at Billy Carson. We only have 12 and a half minutes of Billy Carson left, which means we have enough for like 3 more weeks at the rate that we go. So Billy Carson, I'm going to give some background as to where we were prior to this episode. I can't talk. That's okay. I'm sure it's the gym already. As well as why I've titled this what I have. So Billy Carson, in this video, his thesis is basically that evolution is fake, not a real thing. And to support this, he is claiming that humans were genetically engineered by aliens who came to Earth in the ancient past. Now, it's not clear why that would mean that evolution isn't true. It would mean that humans are not solely the product of natural evolution, but that wouldn't invalidate evolution as a whole, right? It's sort of like saying, like, oh, hey, look, I'm invalidating the existence of cliffs by showing you that humans created cliffs at Mount Rushmore. And then I come along and say, yeah, but there were cliffs there already. They just weren't those cliffs. And also there's cliffs all around the world that people didn't seem to make. And he's like, nope. If humans can make cliffs at Mount Rushmore, they made all the cliffs. That's how it works. No. That's obviously not true. How did the cliffs get there before Mount Rushmore? Who knows? But also, his line of evidence for getting to the humans are genetically engineered by aliens is to just give the most blatantly dishonest readings of ancient and also forged modern texts claiming to be ancient texts. And that's where we are, basically. Also, Billy has opened up a notepad file, and he thought it was a bit small. So he made it full screen, thinking that would enlarge the text, not realizing that all that would do would just keep the text on the left and leave a bunch of blank space. Which, if you know about Egyptian hieroglyphics, which Billy likes to pretend to, you would know would make him a horrible scribe in ancient Egypt. But, yeah, so he doesn't know about things like, control mouse wheel to change your zoom level, or just maybe don't put it in Notepad and instead put it in a program where you can change the font size. I don't know,
Yeah.
things like that. Very, very basic level. And I was telling Shanti earlier, like, he can't be in his 60s or anything. He's got to be in his, 50s, right? He's not too old to know how to make a computer work. So, yeah, I don't know. But that is the context for where we were. We are playing the drinking game. We don't normally go over all of the rules on Saturdays. But if you don't know them, you'll either pick them up quickly or you can ask people. They'll let you know. You've already seen one. Actually, you've seen a couple. Gifted memberships and AIG is a bag of dicks type super chats or membership chats. Will make us take a drink. Also take a drink for a bunch of reasons that Billy might cause. As well as maybe Mothra or Godzilla will come by. You never know. We do have a super chat goal. If we can get to 30 super chats during the stream, the swear jar requirement is gone. We can drop as many swears as we want. Now, like I said, Kit may be by, and if he is by and we have met the goal, then he will also already be unleashed when he shows up. But I can't guarantee that he will in fact show up because, he's busy hanging out with his family, which is a very good thing to do, and I would say probably should take priority over Billy Carson. Now, yeah. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $2 says, enhance. This isn't CSI, man. It doesn't work that way. You can't just gain new magical resolution. Although people think that AI will let you do that, it's like, no, dude, it's imagining all that resolution. Anything it puts in there isn't actually from the original data.
Clinkers.
Oh, look, it's just like CSI. It's like, no, it's still not like CSI.
It's not.
It looks kind of like CSI, but that's not what actually is happening. Mitigeeky Platypus Librarian for $5 says, all clips were made by the Public Works Project during the Jurassic Depression. Franklin Diplodocus Roosevelt, who was not the bag-like, phalli like AIG. That's amazing. Thank you very much. Franklin Diplodocus Roosevelt. Love it. That's good stuff.
Amazing.
All right, so why do I say that Billy is somehow connected to white supremacy and is using Nazi pseudoscience? Because, first of all, I want to say very clearly, it is not my opinion that Billy Carson is a neo-Nazi. It is not my opinion. I think that he would probably say that he very much disagrees with many things they say, and I agree with him. I think he does. I don't think any of them would want him around for obvious reasons. So, what am I talking about? Well, it turns out that a lot of his pseudo-history, pseudo-archaeology stuff about ancient hyper-advanced civilizations, about hyper-diffusionism in terms of archaeology, where like the cultures didn't invent anything on their own, they all got it from some ancient higher culture. His belief in, like civilizations before our civilization, Atlantis and stuff. Yeah, that's all stuff that was largely invented by the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and
they really do ruin everything.
They really do. And also, I mean, Atlantis itself wasn't invented by the Nazis, but the modern craze of Atlantis hunting, that was started by the Nazis. Obviously, Plato wrote down the story of Atlantis in the mouth of Socrates in one of his dialogues. So, to be clear, the Nazis didn't invent Atlantis. But they were some of the first people to ever really like take it seriously as like, oh yeah, maybe that's where the Aryans come from, and they were the ones who civilized the entire world. Like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah.
Buddy.
That's why during, like the height of the Roman Empire, the Aryan tribes in Northern Europe were a bunch of fairly Chalcolithic, mostly hunter-gatherers. That explains it. Yep.
Right.
Exactly. Like, the Germans were some of the last people to get, like, an urbanized society, which at the time of the Nazis was, like, considered to be the mark of civilization, of having an advanced society. And I don't want to say that the Germanic tribes didn't have advanced societies before that, because it turns out that cities are not a prerequisite for having an advanced, complicated society. But hey, that's how it was treated in the early 20th century in history and archaeology. So, anyway. So, the problem I have here, and why I think that this is actually helping to carry water for neo-Nazis, is because when people encounter this stuff, it is an easy stepping stone into more supremacist ideas. And the thing is, while most of Billy's audience is probably not going to go into white supremacy, going into black supremacy isn't a great idea either, right? Like, there are black ethno-nationalists, and they're pieces of shit, and you shouldn't encourage them. Because ethno-states are a bad idea, whether they're for black people or white people or Jewish people.
Yep, I agree.
So, yeah. And also, I'm not going to say that there aren't any white people watching Billy, because there definitely are, and if they then get pushed into Nazi stuff, yeah, that's bad too. That's really bad.
Yeah.
So, that is why we have this title, is because he is pulling ideas that were invented by the Nazis and are still used as recruitment tools by neo-Nazi groups. There are active groups who say, oh, hey, you're into all this alternate history stuff? Cool, have you read this book? And they give you books that are further and further into Nazi conspiracy theories, until eventually they've just got you saying your 14 words and typing 88 all over the internet.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, hey, maybe don't spread Nazi nonsense pseudoscience and pseudo-archaeology, because, I don't even know, you have an online grift where you try to get people to send you money for, like, what is he, hawking supplements? That's what they all do, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I don't actually know if he's hawking supplements, but if you guys do, let me know, because I feel like every pseudoscience grifter is hawking supplements these days.
Yeah, it does seem that way. I mean, it's a grift, so why not?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like, it's not like there's no use for supplements. Like, if you're really at the gym and you are using up a lot of whatever micronutrients or whatever, then yeah, okay, there might be a good reason for you to take a supplement. But, like, I'm sorry, just you existing and like having 5G networks or Wi-Fi around doesn't mean that you need like extra cod liver oil or something. That's not how that works. Let's see. Whisper Das for $5 says only 30. We gotta get this one in the bag. Just not a bag of members. That is AIG, and I believe that was in reference to likes. Yeah, hey, hit that like button so you don't get bilboed. Take a drink for that. And then for €6, Dinosaurian Dude says easy peasy prickly pear squeezy. Oh man, I'm out of prickly pear juice, and it is rough. I might need to go check the rightness of the prickly pears in the yard.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, Vajanti, is there anything else that you feel like we haven't covered that we need to before we hit play on this?
I don't think so. I just do want to congratulate Marduk's Spear in the chat for just signing up for Biblical Hebrew at their university in Helsinki.
Yes, that is indeed very, very cool.
That is very cool. Mazel tov.
Hey, Hebrew is a fun language, although it's got way too many vowels. It's like,
but
look,
I've been reliably informed by callers on the Art Bell show that Hebrew doesn't have vowels.
Well, that's one of the dumbest things that you can possibly think about a language. If anything, it has too many vowels. Look,
not as many as English. That has too many vowels.
I'm not saying that English doesn't have too many vowels. It absolutely does. But English at least has the excuse of being an Indo-European language, which tend to have more vowels overall than most other languages.
I wasn't going to blame it on it being an Indo-European language. I was going to blame it on the fact that it just kind of absorbs and mutates other languages.
It's actually less that. It's more of just merging consonants, which then turns.
No, it's just it's like the blob.
It's not though.
Just run with it.
Because when languages absorb words, they don't usually change their phonology much.
It's the blob.
No, because I gotta teach now. I have to teach it like a concept.
See, chat, this is a thing that Dapper and I regularly go through where I want to be a shit poster and do memes and be funny, and he's like, but I want to be pedantic.
No, I want to be educational because this is an education show.
Again, that's a distinction without a difference.
Fine. But I'm going to be pedantic for a second and talk about how...
Put 1 in the chat if you like shitpost humor, or put 2 in the chat if you want him to be pedantic and ruin my jokes.
I'll just do a poll. You don't have to do 1 and 2. Do you like shitpost humor or pedantry? And first is shitposts. Then we're going to do pedantry. Then...
And Jennifer Silvis notes it's absolutely standard to say Hebrew doesn't have vowels. It might be standard, but it's not correct.
Yeah. All right, so here's the poll. I'm not counting all the numbers because I don't want to look through. But there's a poll. We've got options. Shitposts, pedantry, one, then the other, then turtle. So, we'll see. But, so we're going to actually mention how new phonemes come about, including vowel phonemes. So, a phoneme is a set of sounds that speakers of a language consider to be a sound in the language. It's the kind of thing that usually gets a letter in an alphabet.
Wing says, but only children are entertained by this.
Someone's been reading the comments. Yeah, we'll mention that in a second. Now that you brought it up.
Good.
So a phoneme, right, usually has more than one variation. You might not know it, but if you say like tut, as in King Tut, the 2 different T's that you make as a native English speaker will be different. The first one is aspirated, the second one is unaspirated. Now, when languages merge phonemes, which happens over the course of just natural evolution, sounds are lost and merged into other sounds. What then happens is, if those original sounds caused allophonic variation, that is 2 different versions of the same phoneme, to come in either before or after them, what usually then happens is that the allophonic variation stays. And so you get words that have now the same phonemes in one place, but those allophonic variations start to split apart. And so one thing that can happen is, if you have a lot of mergers in your consonants that were causing different vowels to either lengthen or heighten or lower or round or unround or whatever, right? That can cause you to gain new vowel phonemes, which can then themselves go on to develop new allophonic variations. And that is why English has so many damn vowels. It is because of consonant mergers. Let's see. We got Lieutenant Math Navigator for $5 who says, I have it on good authority that Hebrew reads left to right. I wasn't there, so I can't say anything, because that's how it works. Wow. Well, you might have it on bad authority. That might be
AIG had left justified Hebrew text. So bad.
It's not even just that it's left justified. They flipped it upside down so that it would look left justified. It's also like it's built from a base,
so
like the
bad.
Latin alphabet. So alphabets, like in terms of how you construct the actual letters, tend to either have hanging structures or rising structures, right? And most alphabets have one or two letters that break the norm and have the opposite. Most of the Latin alphabet is rising structures. There's a line and you write above the line. And if you have horizontal bits, they're usually on the line for a lot of letters. And if you have a vertical bit, it usually descends down. And you can make it descend down as, whatever, but if it also, if you have a vertical bit, it usually extends up. Like you have B and D and L and whatnot. Hebrew works the other way. The line is something you write under. Virtually everything drops down from that line, and the line at the top is where you align all your text to. And because it reads right to left, if you flip it upside down, it looks like an alphabet that's written with a base line rather than a top line, and like it's writing from left to right. Which is why AIG used to do that all the time, because none of them knew enough about Hebrew to know that it was basically written in exactly the opposite way that the Latin alphabet is written. So that's just fun. Alright, I think we're actually ready to hit play now that we've been delayed enough by pedantry and by super chats and by you being a completely inadequate arguer for the supremacy of Trip Tucker.
I like Sable Eagle's comment. Screw that. Go Arabic and move the line.
I mean, Arabic has a very cool alphabet, but it also works like English in terms of having a line at the bottom that things come up from primarily.
I like Arabic because it has the best calligraphy.
It does have
and
the
it is a
best
very
calligraphy.
Pleasing language to listen to.
Yeah. I have actually maintained for probably 20 years now that the best calligraphy is Arabic calligraphy. Which is not to say other calligraphy is bad.
Arabic is just the top. It's so good. It lends itself intentionally to art. And I love that. It is gorgeous.
Yes.
Good job, Arabic.
Let's see. Lieutenant Math Navigator for $2 says, AIG looks like the highest form of epistemology. Yeah, that is a good point. That is kind of in line with their general vibe of just like, oh, it looks right to me, so it must be. All right, we're going to be closing this poll in not too long. We do have more than half the number of people we have watching who have voted. And Vishanti, right now, I got to let you know that one, then the other, which is you two in a shit post and then me explaining it pedantically, is in fact in the lead.
I'm really not okay that you made that an option, because I was hoping for a binary choice.
Oh, I knew what you were going for. You were hoping to win by default due to lack of nuance.
What? Excuse you? I don't see why that's a bad thing.
Look, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying I circumvented it via strategic thinking. I'm going to hit play.
But I'm in a notepad. But Thoth is sent to, I kind of went over a little bit of this last week, I believe. He's sent out to the land of Chem to help re-kickstart civilization on Earth.
Okay, so this is Billy reading from the channeled version of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth that he has, for some reason, dropped into his notepad. So, in case you don't know what a channeled text is, a channeled text is a text that is allegedly produced by someone essentially writing the text as it is dictated into their mind by some supernatural entity, be it an angel, a devil, a ghost, ancient Atlantean priest kings, whatever. You might also know it by its more common name, which is to say made-up fraudulent bullshit. Because there has never been a single channel text that has ever had any corroborating evidence outside of the text itself. Ever. In fact, often, when you check, you find it's not there. One of my favorite examples is that
Thank you, DM Wing. Unwelcome nuance.
I'm gonna end the poll now that we have 63 votes. I don't think those last 20 people are gonna vote. So
unwelcome nuance.
Do you like shitpost humor or pedantry? One than the other has won with 47% of the vote. Turtle got 26%, and I usually take turtle to mean like I want to participate, but I don't really care about the answer. Shitposts are 14%, and pedantry are 11%, which means that about 58% of these 63 votes like the pedantry, and about 61% like the shitposts, which means virtually everyone likes both.
I'm taking the shitpost as winning over pedantry.
Because
you asked shitpost humor or pedantry, which is 2 options, and then you gave 4 voting responses. So,
Vishanti, at the risk of being more pedantic, if you take an OR gate and option 1 is true, OR gate returns true. But if option 2 is true, it also returns true. And if both are true, it also returns true.
Welcome nuance.
So I'm just saying that this is just me using Boolean logic.
Welcome nuance.
We got a couple membership chats. Let's see. Vandelli1998, who's been a member for 57 months, says, for the first time in forever, I'm not too busy editing videos and can watch live again. Well, welcome, Vandelli1998. It has been a while. The Screen Geek, who's been a member for 28 months, says, Billy sucks. My girlfriend says hi, and I'm going to go sleep now. Watching tomorrow. Don't get Bilbo'd with a sparkly heart emoji. Much love. Also, where's Kip? Kip is currently hanging out with his family. As if family is more important than some asshole on the internet. Unbelievable, right? Alright. I'm gonna hit play. Oh, wait, no. My favorite version of this channel nonsense not working out. Okay, so this is technically not channeling, but it's a bit essentially the same. Ron Hubbard told people that he had been, in his past lives, like various types of like pirates, and in Roman times, like a privateer or whatever, going around the Mediterranean Sea, and he knew where all of his old gold had been buried, and he buried it there for him to find. And he seems to have believed this because he spent about a decade on a fleet of ships while evading U.S. law enforcement in the Mediterranean, stopping at various islands, digging for treasure, and you know how much treasure that man found?
None.
Exactly. He found none treasure.
Whale.
Yep.
Okay.
All the while keeping his fleet running off of slave labor, and that is in fact the source of the Sea Org, because originally it was actually you were going to go out to the fleet that he was running, made of like 3 rundown fishing boats.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And the only people who were allowed to get his messages and pass them around were a cadre of teenage girls. Now,
gross.
It is gross, although I have looked and I cannot find any of them, all of whom have since basically left Scientology for various reasons. I can't find any of them actually claiming that he was untoward towards them. So I am not saying that he was using them for that purpose, because as far as I can tell, none of them have even accused him of that, and many or all of them have left Scientology and talked about that time. So, like, I don't actually have evidence of him ever actually exploiting, Scientology members for sex. Although he was absolutely horrible to his actual partners, like his wives. So,
yeah.
He's definitely not getting a pass overall for his behavior with women. But as far as I can tell, he did not abuse those teenage girls in that way. Now, he did use them as slave labor on his ramshackle outlaw fleet that was repeatedly banned from entering numerous countries. So, like, he passed the lowest imaginable bar, and none of the higher bars. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $5 says, and Ron Hubbard is a known incompetent person in maritime matters. Yeah, he famously dropped all of his depth charges on a coral reef and shelled a Mexican island for like an entire day straight. And just to remind me, Mexico was on the side of Japan during World War II, right? Am I getting that right?
No.
Oh no! Wait, they weren't on the side of the U.S., were they?
I mean, I don't necessarily say our side, but they were at least against the Axis powers.
Yeah, they were a friendly country to the U.S. So he shelled an allied nation. Now, to be fair, as far as I know,
he shelled an allied nation. That's much better.
As far as I know, the island was uninhabited. It was just a strip of land. So no one was hurt. But come on, man. You spent all your ammunition on an island owned by Mexico. Tea time. T for $5 says, surprisingly, the pedant supporter is using pedantry to support his position, and the shit poster is using jokes. Correct.
Yep.
This is in fact, yes. And by the way, this is how we interacted privately. Also,
I mean, Maya Atkinson said that we missed our calling as fraternal twins, and I mean, I can't disagree.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, remember that time that out of the blue I said, don't go to bed as you were just getting into bed? And I had no actual rational
on
way.
my phone. I was literally climbing into my bed and my phone goes off with a notification. What the How?
Yeah. Exactly. It's a psychic connection. If there was anyone who was ever going to prove psychic powers are real, it's going to be you and me.
Air sign supremacy.
All right, I'm going to hit play.
And he's dealing with what he calls the hairy barbarians. And he's trying to bring them back to a high level of civilization. Let's see what happens here.
Remember, guys, if you're Hirsute, that makes you a lower level of life form, according to Thoth the Atlantean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Call to me them, the master, saying, gather ye together my people. So Thoth's dad is telling him, who's actually Enki, he's telling Thoth, get together your crew.
So again, this is really conflating different texts that don't actually align with each other. So a lot of the stuff he's getting about Enki and how maybe Enlil is actually the god of the Bible and whatnot, he's getting a lot of that nonsense from misinterpretations of the Epic of Atrahasis. But the Emerald Tablets that were channeled actually contradict the sort of not Velikovsky. Who am I thinking? Sitchin. The Sitchin interpretations that Billy likes, even though he likes to pretend that he doesn't get them from Sitchin. This version of that contradicts that. So he's having to shove these two mutually contradictory ideas about nonsense in the ancient past together. Because this is actually supposed to be a revival of Hermeticism. That's what the point of the channeled Emerald Tablets is. And so while it does involve an ancient civilization and a guy named Thoth, he's supposed to be an Atlantean priest king that is the actual origin of civilization. Whereas Billy is going with genetically engineered Sumerians as the origin of civilization. And those aren't actually the same idea. But he is just kind of twisting them into some kind of sense of coherency. It's like when Christian apologists take some of the most obvious contradictions in the Bible, and they're just like, no! If you just think about it in this completely ridiculous way, where there's no evidence for anything I'm saying, then it doesn't actually sound like a contradiction anymore. It's like, oh, okay, but why would I do that?
Oh,
and then it turns out the answer is because you want the Bible to not be contradictory. And if I say, I don't care if it's contradictory, so why would I still do it? There's no response to that. Because turns out I don't care if the Bible is contradictory. I don't see why I would. I don't see what it would affect about anything about me. Tadship for $5 says, I don't think you can be fraternal twins because Vish is a human and Dapper is a troll. I was expecting that to go dinosaur, but okay. AIG is a Wang Wambulance. Nice. I'll take a drink for Wang Wambulance. Good stuff. And then Metageeky Platypus Librarian has just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships, which remember, we are trying, hopefully, to get to the Mudkip Davis emoji, but that is a long ways away. So,
yeah,
any additional memberships definitely help with that. So, while I take 5 drinks, Vishanti is going to tell you why Trip Tucker actually sucks.
No, I will not. I am not gonna besmirch the good name of Charles Tucker III.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, here we go.
Get our people together, right? Our Atlantean Anunnaki people. Get them all together.
Yeah, that's not a thing that's anywhere in the text you're reading.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what? Where's he? is he getting that?
Yeah, the Anunnaki aren't in the text you're reading, Billy. You're putting that in there. This is what some people might call eisegesis, Billy, where you just shove whatever you want into the text that makes you happy.
Take them by the arts ye have learned of far across the waters until you reach the land of the hairy barbarians. He's talking about the land of Chem, because we know this because the more we read, we find out this is called the land of Chem, where we find ancient Egypt before it was called Egypt. Okay?
So, a fun thing, Egypt comes from the Greek Aegyptos, which is where we get the English word Egypt. The native Egyptian term for Egypt was Kemet, which basically means the black land. And it's thought that the reference to black was a reference to the color of the silt that washed into Egypt when the Nile had its annual flooding. Because Egypt, while it claimed territory that was wider than just the Nile River Valley, its primary hub of civilization was like directly on the banks of the Nile. Every single major Egyptian site was, when it was constructed, on the banks. Now, the Nile has meandered in the thousands of years of Egyptian history. So a lot of the ruins are no longer on the banks, but we have evidence that they were built on the banks because we have things like dock structures that are preserved. And like, why would you build a dock in the middle of nowhere, not on the river? You would. It's because it was on the river. They also call the surrounding desert lands the red lands, probably again because of the orangey reddish sand that was blowing around in those deserts. So when he says Chem, I believe he's basically trying to import the idea of Kemet, which is a real Egyptian word with an Egyptology pronunciation. But obviously, it didn't have those vowels. But hey, Mothra's here. Hi, Mothra. Take a drink from Mothra. All right.
Dwelling in the caves of the desert, follow there the plan that ye know of. Gathered I then, Thoth is saying, gathered I then my people, and entered into the great ship of the master. He's gotten to a mothership.
It doesn't say that, Billy. Here's the thing. This text is still imagining Atlantis as an earthbound civilization made of primarily humans. Now, granted, humans who were like spiritually advanced and psychically awakened or some shit, right? Sure. Whatever. But it's imagining a ship that's on the water. Because what causes the fall of Atlantis, both in these made-up texts and in the actual story from Plato via allegedly via Socrates, it's the island sinking. Why would that be a problem for space-faring civilization who have apparently motherships that can fit an entire civilization of gods and their slaves on them? Doesn't seem like it would be a problem at all. Why would anyone die in that situation? Like, think about if it was like Star Trek, and they were like, oh no, one of our cities is going to sink underwater. What would happen? They would just beam everybody up. Sure, it might take a little while, but that's what would happen. They would just beam everybody up. And then you just have a whole bunch of people in that cargo bay on the Enterprise, just like happened when that one time when like medieval Irish villagers came on board the Enterprise for some reason, and Riker put the moves on one of them. Early TNG is weird stuff, man. But hey, remember about the Irish unification of 2024? Hey, Ireland, North Ireland, get on it. You're late. Yeah, exactly. You're late. Also, we're like a decade overdue for good hoverboards. So,
yeah.
Tech Bros, instead of doing nonsense bullshit like taking up more water than many small countries need in order to process a bunch of large language model responses that are lies anyway, why don't you work on Irish unification and hoverboards? Get on that. Of course, then they would find a way to like monetize Irish unification. You think they might not be able to, but I've seen a plan for Tech Bros to monetize sunlight. I've actually seen 2 different plans to monetize sunlight. So yeah, that's a thing that they've tried to do. The thing that everyone receives 6 months of for free directly from the sun. There's Tech Bros out there like, how can we make people pay us money to get this sunlight?
course.
One of the plans is giant reflectors in space that will then shine sunlight down to you if you rent it during the nighttime.
Huh.
Yeah. The other plan is, what if instead of skyscrapers, we actually dig massive tunnels into the ground, and then you pay rent based on how up you are, which then basically is the same thing as you paying money to experience sunlight. Yeah. Which is literally a situation of living where the higher up you are, the more sunlight you get, and the more expensive that is. That's literally the dystopian hive cities from Warhammer 40k, in case anyone's wondering.
Yeah.
Yep. Tech Bros just out there being like, oh man, a civilization that the setting itself describes as the most bloody regime imaginable. Sounds great to me. Okay. Cool.
Ugh.
I love our civilization. No problems.
First timeline.
Lieutenant Math Navigator for $2 says, maybe the Atlantean ships ran on Star Wars logic, where it's the rule of cool.
Yes,
I mean,
really
maybe.
cool.
Yeah. Look, the rule of
100%.
cool is cool, and it's a rule for a reason. Lieutenant Math Navigator for $5 says, where's my working fusion reactor, General Motors, right? Come on.
Seriously.
It should be able to fit on my car. Right-handed Sith, who's been a member for 29 months, says, I'd rather have an arc reactor with a disgusting pelagic tunicate, followed by Mothra and another disgusting
I
pelagic
agree.
tunicate.
That'd be pretty awesome. Clean energy. Tony figured it out. And what was the first thing Obadiah tried to do? Monetize it.
Well, I guess first he tried to upscale it. Then he was going to monetize it.
Yeah.
But he couldn't even get that
Then
first
he
part.
did exactly what all the other tech bros and billionaires do. They were like, well, we're gonna scale this and monetize it. But then he was like, nah, I'm just gonna use it to do warmongering.
I mean, to be fair, that is his name.
Yeah.
So, what could you possibly expect from a character named Warmonger? Wait, he wanted to do a war? Oh, who could have seen this coming?
They didn't know that in universe that his name was Warmonger. He just
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
as a wink to the audience, he said, "We're warmongers, Tony," but yeah. He's never explicitly called that, but that's fine.
It's like I was playing a game and there's a character named Faustinius, and he might not be the most trustworthy guy. It's like, oh man, you mean the guy named after Faust, the man who sells his soul to the devil in one of the most famous pieces of literature in all of the Western world? That guy might not be trustworthy? You don't say. Vandalia 1998 for $2 says the Bell Riots from Deep Space Nine are a year late as well. Yeah, seriously. Let's go. Let's get some Bell Riots. Come on.
Yeah.
Ashanti, you live not too far from where the Bell Riots are supposed to take place. Are you working on it?
Wait, say that again?
You live not too far from where the Bell Riots are supposed to take place. Are you working on it?
I refuse to answer that question. I invoke the fifth.
Probably a good idea. Demon Trigger 14K for $5 says, I love that Sam Altman's plan is to ask the AI they make how to make profit off of AI.
Yeah. Also, yeah, I thank you, Lieutenant Matt the Navigator. My coffee hasn't hit yet. It's Ironmonger, not Warmonger. So
is it Ironmonger? Oh man. Why did I get that wrong? Whatever.
Ironmonger.
I'm dumb. I'm just dumb.
My brain translated that into Warmonger, which he also is, but Ironmongers, because their weapons.
Patch $5 says Irish Unification plus 1488 on Peter Thiel.
Seriously.
Yeah. I've started to hate the word plus now.
Yeah. I mean, it's because Disney Plus does it, and then no one else can think of a way to describe their streaming services, so they're like, F it, we'll just call it something plus.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it clearly communicates what you're signing up for, so I'll give it that. And that is a lot of
but
marketing.
Also, it's funny to me that they're all losing money hand over fist.
Oh yeah.
And it's ironic to me that this might be how we circle back around to cable and satellite subscriptions being the default.
Yeah, well,
because they did it to themselves. People were sick of paying for all of these channels that they weren't watching.
Mm-hmm.
And then streaming services were like, well, what if we tailor our libraries to things that you do want to watch? And early on, Netflix had the entire Charlie Chaplin library, which was freaking awesome because that's really hard to get a hold of. And then they realized that licensing all of those libraries, wasn't really doing it. So they're like, well, what if we save money by making stuff in-house? And for a while that worked, but then they realized, oh, no, we're still hemorrhaging money, like hemorrhaging it. So I suspect we may end up going back around to cable
Fair
subscriptions,
chance.
or at least like a streaming bundle that's the equivalent of cable and satellite subscriptions. So
I'm going to hit play.
you know,
That way we can get through more than like 14 seconds.
hey, balkanization of streaming, yes.
It literally is. Thick Sea Star with 2 C's for 200 Argentinian pesos says John Cena. They literally call themselves Decepticons. Doesn't that raise a few red flags? Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, it's a little on the nose, guys. It reminds me of fucking Rowling's naming conventions. It's like, oh, hey, look, I introduced a Chinese character named Cho Chang. Gee, thanks. Oh, we have an African guy. His name's Ramsey Shacklebolt. Like, oh, so he's like a slave? Okay, cool. Thanks. Wow. Could you have been a little bit less on the nose about your racism there?
Upward we rose in the morning. So he rose into the sky. Upward we rose into the morning. Dark beneath us lay.
Or maybe they just woke up, Billy. Is it? No? Okay, sure.
The temple. So as they were rising up, the temple began to fade away from underneath them.
That's not what it says. It says the temple was dark, probably because there was no light in it yet, Billy. Like, these words have very clear meanings, and Billy can't accept any of them. And this is with a made-up text. Billy, just make up your own damn version of the text. Channel Thoth yourself. Who cares? At least then, your version of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth that you channeled would be yours. You could copyright them. You could actually make them fit into whatever nonsense bullshit you're peddling.
It's ridiculous.
Like, literally, why doesn't he just make up his own version? Oh, right, because he doesn't actually have the creativity or the writing capability to actually do that. I forgot.
Yeah.
Suddenly, over it rose the waters, vanished from the earth. In other words, that's the atmosphere.
No, Billy. The waters rose over. It there is the temple. The waters rose over the temple before the light got into it. And it vanished from the earth by sinking under the water, Billy. That's very obviously what's happened. Oh my, I'm taking a drink. How? How do you have that low a comprehension of what you're reading? And how do you build an audience that also has at least that low, if not lower, reading comprehension level?
Wild.
Like, it can't just be that his audience is all functionally illiterate, can it? Like, there's got to be something else going on there. I feel like there has to be. Oh, for $4.99, George McMarion Yoles Snoozer Wolf sends a bunch of pirate flags, and AIG is a bag of pain elementals and archipels. I'll take a drink.
Drink up, me arties, yo ho.
Yeah, so I agree with the sentiment entirely. And also, very nice Doom reference with the pain elementals and archviles. Good stuff. Also, I just recently beat the DLC for Bolt Gun, which is a more recent boomer shooter, and I am looking forward to Bolt Gun 2. Because that's coming out. It's supposed to come out this year, and I think. I'm also looking forward to Mechanicus 2, which doesn't have a release date yet. It does have a demo that a few people have been sent the key for, and it has Tech Inquisitor Scaevola and some Necron Nemesaur, whose name I don't remember because she wasn't in the first game. But I liked it that they were getting like a 5th or 6th female character for the Necrons. Because it seems like when Games Workshop created the lore for them, they kind of forgot that when an entire civilization gets transformed into robots, about half of them should probably be women, roughly. And they just...
Yeah.
That just wasn't anywhere in any of their designs. Like, all the named characters are all using masculine pronouns. And, like, finally, some of the authors in the books were like, we should probably make some of these people women. Like, oh, wow.
Wow, what a concept.
Yeah, I know. Although at least they didn't do the thing that I've seen 3D models of Necron female characters do, which is just put boobs on a metal skeleton. I don't know if you know this, but skeletons don't have boobs.
I mean,
Throwing
I
that out
did know
there.
that.
Yeah. There are no boob bones.
Now he's out in space. Until the time appointed was the Great Temple. So they're traveling. They get to the temple location according to their coordinates that they probably plugged into their system. Fast we fled toward the sun of the morning until beneath us lay the land of the children of Chem.
Billy, how? So they're going east.
What?
Whatever. He seems to think that that fleeing in the direction of the rising sun means they were going up into space to chase the sun, when it clearly means they were going east, because that's the direction the sun rises in. DM Wing says different species have different male-female balance. Yeah, that's true. Although, the thing is that alien species in fiction tend to just be funny humans. And
Yeah.
the Necron tier are clearly... Like, we actually have art now of some of their pre-biotransference death masks in the newest codex. They're clearly just people, but they're people with lots more cancer and Egyptian. That's what they were. Tasha says, Dapper talks a lot for someone under Exterminatus. Wait, I don't think anyone's doing an Exterminatus here on Holy Terra. I don't know. Seems like a few people might get a little bit pissy about that. Not the least of which being like the Custodes and the Iron Fists. So, yeah. Although, the Iron Fist homeworld is Terra, but like, when are they ever actually there? It's almost never.
So beneath them, so they're coming down from space or coming down.
Wait, did I say Iron Fist? I meant Imperial Fist. Sorry, Iron Fists, guys. Ferrus Manus is cool, even if he is so ugly that they called him the Gorgon.
From the sky down, as they're looking beneath them, they see the children of Chem. Raging, they came with cudgels and spears, lifted in anger, seeking to slay and utterly destroy the sons of Atlantis.
Cudgel's a fun word, though.
Cudgel is, but Cludgel isn't.
Yeah, Cludgel is just a made-up word, because Billy can't read.
That's just a little goof there, a little oopsies.
Mm-hmm.
So when they landed this ship and opened the door, these people came and tried to attack them, probably just to protect their homeland where they live. They just want to, this is like their territory. This is where we live, man. We don't know where you are, who you are, but you're gonna get some smoke. And then Thoth says, he said, I raised my staff and directed a ray of vibration, striking them still in their tracks as fragments of stone in the mountain. So he hit them with this stun gun, and they stopped.
That is the first time you have stopped after saying something about this text, Billy, and then said something that I didn't think was a ridiculous interpretation. So good job. Well, I guess we'll take a drink for that. Billy got something more or less right about the text. Hooray!
Yay!
And I spoke to them in words calm and peaceful, telling them of the might of Atlantis, saying that we were children of the sun and its messengers. And he cowed them by his display of magic science. In other words, he humbled them by showing them his technology.
Yep, that is actually more or less what's implied there. But Billy, do you notice how that's a completely different story than the gods coming from another planet and genetically engineering humans? In this story, the gods are just themselves advanced humans from Atlantis who are conquering other pre-existing humans that just are living, their natural human lives, having evolved on Earth, and just happening to be the ones that happen to be in, like, Eastern North Africa right now. Like, you don't see how those are different stories? I don't think he does. Or maybe he does, and he just doesn't care. It's hard to tell. Also, Billy, you can set OBS, or not OBS, this is StreamYard. Billy, you can set StreamYard to not capture your mouse. Just putting that out there.
He doesn't know that.
Yeah, he probably doesn't.
Until at my feet they groveled. When I released them, long dwelt we in the land of Chem. Long and yet long again. So hundreds, maybe even thousands of years go by, until obeying the commands of the master, until he trains them in his arts. Now, according to the ancient Egyptians, to add credence to what he's saying here, Thoth ruled over the land of Chem before Egypt for 14,000 years, according to the Egyptians.
So I'm unaware of any ancient Egyptian text that says that Thoth was ever the temporal ruler over the land of Egypt, which would presumably be, the Upper and Lower Egypt. Upper being South Egypt, in case you're wondering. But then again, there's a lot of Egyptian texts, so I guess I can't say for certain that that's not true. But I would love to know where he gets that text, where he gets that claim from, right?
Yeah.
Like, what temple or scroll or whatever did he get that from? Because all of the described Egyptian texts have a way for you to reference them, right? Whether it be by, like, scroll number in a library, or whether it be by, like, which particular wall and which particular temple it's found on, or something you can go look up. And then, if you actually know some Egyptian, you can actually go and read whatever that text is and see if what he's saying. But when people don't tell you, that's when you should get suspicious, right? It's like when someone says, well, did you know that the Talmud says, and then they say some horrible nonsense?
Ugh.
And then you say, well, where does it say that? And they're like, I don't know, it's in the Talmud.
It's in the Talmud somewhere.
That's
Okay.
not useful. I'm not going to read whatever it is, like 300 volumes, I'm exaggerating, to go and try and find out whether or not your nonsense is in there and what the context is. Because also, a lot of stuff that's in... Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say I have a whole just soapbox about people who are like, oh, yeah, we totally know where it is. And they post these really crappy little, quote, infographics.
Yeah.
And it starts making up tractates that don't exist.
Mm-hmm. That's always fun.
Just wonderful. It's like, oh, I can really tell you know exactly what you're talking about, and you're not just trying to spread bigotry. Good job.
Or also, this was actually something that Sitchin, who Billy is a big fan of, used to do, is he would just say, well, it's in the Mahabharata. It's like, I'm sorry.
Oh,
it's
hey.
in the longest epic poem ever written on Earth?
Yeah, really?
You're going to tell me where? Because I'm not going to read the whole damn thing. Nope. Oh, okay. It's just somewhere in the Mahabharata.
Yeah,
Great.
it's just in the Mahabharata. Yeah, just go look. It's fine.
Cool. That's even worse than just saying, well, it's in the Bible. Like, is it?
Oh, okay. Well, that's also real helpful. Thanks.
At least I'm familiar enough with most biblical texts. If someone says this is in the Bible, I usually have a good idea of roughly where it might be. And I can check. But, like... Yeah, no. And the thing is, all of these texts, right?
God.
You can find them online publicly. They're not hidden anywhere. So if this is true, if someone is telling you, hey, this ancient text says this thing, and it's true, then if they actually give you the citation, you'll be able to find it. And if they can't give you the citation, I'm not saying they're not true. They're not right? Because sometimes people do in fact get it right that something's in a text and they forget the citation. That happens. But what I'm saying is, them telling you isn't good reason to think it's true. Billy is guilty of this a lot.
Yeah.
Not according to Billy Carson, according to the Egyptians.
No, Billy.
Sure.
It might be according to the Egyptians, but you haven't given us the information to figure that out. Let's see. Oh, yeah, as Jillian Wren said. But had you considered it was secret? So that ties into the conspiracy theory idea. Like, the very idea that saying that there's a conspiracy to hide the information is going to save you from needing to provide the information that would demonstrate your claim. What claiming a conspiracy actually does is it just gives you a new claim that you now have to provide evidence for, in addition to still needing to provide evidence of the original claim, right? So if I say that secretly, Japan is actually ruled by a council of monsters, including Godzilla, Mothra, and Anguirus, depending on which English dub you're watching, and that you would probably demand some kind of evidence, because, there's, like, a guy who is supposed to be the head of state, and, like, there's an emperor who's, like, the ceremonial guy who's in, quote-unquote, in charge, and, like, there's a whole, like, legislative body and judges and whatnot, and none of those seem to be Godzilla, Mothra, or Anguirus, and, like, so what's your evidence of this? And I say, well, there's actually a conspiracy to hide the fact that really the most famous Toho kaiju are in charge of Japan. And in fact, Toho itself is part of the conspiracy, making movies to make them seem fictional. Okay, cool. That's not actually evidence that those three figures are in charge of Japan. I still need to provide evidence of that, and now I also need to provide evidence of a cover-up that Toho is involved in. That's all that's happened right there, is I've made my claim less believable. So pro tip to all you crazy woo peddlers out there. every time you say that the reason you don't have evidence is a conspiracy, you have just made your life harder for you. That is not evidence for your claim. That is now just a new claim that you need to provide evidence for.
Until obeying the commands of the master. While sleeping, yet he lives eternally. He's talking about Enki in his rejuvenation chamber.
Is he? Because it doesn't say that, Billy.
Okay. I think he watched Stargate too many times.
Yeah, I mean, this would actually be more fun as just Stargate fanfic.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, Billy, just transition into doing fanfic for Stargate, right? Because in that case, all your ancient alien nonsense is true in that universe, right? Aliens did actually come down to Earth and start Egyptian and probably Sumerian civilization. They were, in fact, godlike beings who could live for thousands and thousands of years, right? Like, just do that. Plus, you could, be friends with baby James Spader.
Eh. He was a cutie.
He is so absurdly young in that movie.
I know.
I looked at it recently and I was like, oh my goodness. James Spader.
Hey, baby.
I can't.
He's baby.
Except when I'm watching that movie, I can't even picture James Spader being that young.
His Halls of Amenti, which I'm going to take people to in October. I'm going to take them to Enki's Halls of Amenti, where his body used to rest and rejuvenate.
Okay, so what I think that means is he's going to lead a scam tour of ancient Egyptian archaeological sites.
Okay.
Hey,
sure.
Here's the thing. There are actual tour groups that are actually composed of tour guides who are well informed about Egyptian archaeology and history, and you can book tours with those groups. You don't have to book a tour to Egypt with a crazy woo peddler, right? This is like going to the Galapagos Islands with AIG. Why would you do that? Or going to the Grand Canyon with that one Grand Canyon tour group that I responded to that's like the Christian tour group that's going to tell you all about flood geology. Like, why would you pay all this money to go be lied to? Don't get it.
I sent for me the sons of Atlantis, sent them in many directions. This is the most important part of what I'm saying here. I sent from me the sons of Atlantis. These are the people he took with him, his crew. He sent.
Well, probably crew in the broad slang sense of, like, these are the people I roll with. But sure, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Sent them in many directions. He's spreading them out all over the planet.
Mm-hmm.
That from the womb of time, wisdom might rise again in her children, talking about the men, humans. So he's saying, okay, the crew he's got, I want you guys to go. You take this part of Africa, you take that part of Mesoamerica, you take this part of the North Americas, you take this part of Canada, you take this part of Europe, you take this area of Asia, and you guys set up.
Thank you for mentioning the most populous continent on the entire Earth, Billy, eventually. I appreciate it. For $5, Thatcher says, Toho conspiracy, Billy watched Stargate? The Custodies would definitely support my inquisitorial warrant. The Golden Throne won't miss Arizona. I mean, it might not miss Arizona, but it might miss the rest of Holy Terra. Just saying. Although, now that I think about it, I don't think that any place... I don't think Arizona actually comes up in any of, like, the 40k lore. I know the Imperial Palace is more or less built on, like, what's now, like, Bhutan and Nepal. So...
Well, Bhutan is where that entity lives.
True. Or the Empty Man.
That's right.
But, yeah. Jean, did you know that the capital of the Imperium of Man is, in fact, more or less in Nepal?
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but all right.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, and the Imperial Palace takes up, like, most of Central Asia.
Shop, and you duplicate exactly what we did here. These people went around the world doing this. And
yeah, so this is just the hyper-diffusionism, right? This is just the idea that all of civilizations got all their ideas from the same single source, and it's Atlantis. And do you see why that was an attractive myth to the Nazis?
Yep.
Right? Because if you believe in hyper-diffusionism, and you just identify yourself with the original source, suddenly it becomes easier for you to make your supremacist claims, right? My civilization is actually the original civilization that told all of these, insert various racial slurs, how to build civilizations. Yeah, it's a really easy step to take. And probably the biggest current popularizer of Atlantis nonsense is Graham Hancock. And while today he is very hesitant to talk about the physical appearance of his Ice Age advanced civilization that is definitely Atlantis if you read his older books, is because he knows that he's using racist works and complains a lot when people point it out. But in his earlier works...
A racist, I just use all their materials.
Yeah, in his earlier works, he's very clear that this was a fair-skinned, European-seeming civilization in Atlantis. Like, he's not shy about that, though, that in his works from, like, the 80s and the 90s.
And then he gets more upset that people accuse him of being racist than he is actually being racist.
He actually gets upset about people who don't accuse him of being racist, but who point out that his ideas come from racist sources, and that by spreading them,
just
he's
using
encouraging that.
all of their sources and doing all their PR for them, and really, I can't get over the fact that like some of these white nationalists, white supremacists, neo-Nazis, whatever, have on their podcast gone, man, we really like this dude because he's making our recruitment easier.
Yep.
Like, bro, do you think you might want to change course?
And to be clear, that was about Graham Hancock, not Billy.
Yes, correct. But it's like that same sort of principle applies. Don't do their PR for them. Don't make their job easier.
Yep. Especially not by spreading misinformation and mistrust of science. Like, we already have a big enough problem with lack of scientific literacy and people just thinking that because it's science, it must be wrong, which is more or less the opposite of how the real world works. Please don't make it worse, people. Tantra for $2 says tactical virus bombs. I don't think that's how the World Eater works, but what do I know? Or no, the Flesh Eater virus. I'm sorry. For some reason, I was thinking of the Sons of Angron. Yeah. Hey, Shanti, if your dad said that he was going to implant something into your brain that made it so that you felt excruciating pain anytime you had an emotion other than pure rage, would you be happy about it? Probably not, huh?
I mean, if all I was allowed to feel was rage, I'd probably be upset about it.
Yeah. Because if you weren't, you would feel excruciating pain.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
it's literally get mad, stay mad.
Mm-hmm. yeah, that definitely happened to a whole legion in 40k. And surprise, surprise, they're a bunch of crazy, bloodthirsty berserkers.
Well, how about that?
Weird.
What's so important about this, let me stop sharing and come back, is this is how we began to get our races, okay? And what am I talking about? Let me tell you.
Really, that wouldn't make any sense. If Atlanteans were all one people in a single city, which is what was being described by Atlantis, it's basically a city-state, that group would probably be fairly homogenous. And they would be spreading out around the world into areas where people have a lot of different phenotypic traits. Right? Like different eye colors, different skin colors, different hair textures, different facial shapes for like cheekbones, noses, brow ridges, whatever. Right? So what should be happening is that what we call races, which is really just regional variation in appearance there's really no races. That's not how human genetics works. It could have been, but it turns out it isn't. But those would have already been pre-existing. Unless you want to say that for some reason, Atlantis was a racially segregated society. And they were so racially segregated that they're actually the origin of all these different like phenotypic suites that we here in like the North America pretend are racial categories that aren't actually even distinct groups when you go out into the real world. We only think they are because of, the uneven amount of immigration to North America from various parts of the world. Yeah, I'm taking a drink. Tasha for $2 says, this video makes the rage virus acceptable.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what the tactical virus is? For the tactical virus bomb? Is it the rage virus?
I guess so.
Maybe it is. That would work better than the World Eater virus.
Right now, let me go back in here to my PowerPoint.
we're probably not taking a full break unless Vishanti really needs to take a break. So I'm gonna just do a quick
I'm okay.
commercial thing right here. So guys, if you're watching this, if you like what I do, if you like the channel overall, or if you just want to get Ben some free pizza, supporting the channel really goes a long way. Without your support, the channel just could not continue. If you feel like you want to help the channel out in a regular and predictable way that helps me budget, Patreon and the channel memberships are great options for that. Patreon starts at just $1 a month. The membership at $1.99. Patreon, you can get a 15% discount. Both of them give you early access to about 6 months worth of videos. Both of them give you access to my patron and supporter only Discord server, where we hang out, share a lot of cat pics. There's a venting section for when you're having a rough time or something's making you angry, you just want to shout about it. We have sections for art sharing. We have sections for TTRPG stuff, for gaming, all sorts of nerdy stuff that you can do in there. And it's a Discord server for a YouTuber that isn't full of toxic nonsense, because I make sure it isn't. So there you go. And if that's not for you, there's also merch. Both Vishanti and I have links in the description for wish lists, so you can just get us a thing. That actually is a pretty big help when it comes to things like needing some happy brain chemicals, which Vishanti and I do occasionally need extra of. So, also there's some practical stuff on there, which, especially for Vishanti, would be very helpful. So, help out there. Yeah, so we're just going to continue on with Billy.
So,
once again, we get to see what is almost certainly the AI cover of Billy's rag, Emerald Tablets, A Beginner's Guide. Oh, sorry, Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, A Beginner's Guide. Yeah, it looks terrible, but whatever.
how do we get our races?
We didn't, Billy. There are no races. The way we got races is Europeans needed an excuse for slavery. That's how we got our races. So they invented races to be prejudiced against, so they didn't feel so bad about taking them and using them for hard, involuntary, forced labor, Billy. That's how we got races. You could just not buy into that paradigm. The one that was made up by slavers. You don't have to buy into that, Billy. Am I going crazy, or would he be better served by just not pretending that races are real?
Yeah, this is...
Whisper is Dash for $5 says, for pizza and Godzilla. We'll take a drink for the Godzilla, thank you.
Cognitive Trifurcation in the chat is saying, don't forget the Spanish anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. That's also part of how that happened.
Yeah, there's that too.
What specifically? Because if you're talking about medieval Spain, there were a lot.
Well, that is one thing. Is it, which anti-Semitic conspiracy theory? Is it the blood libel? Is it poisoning wells? Is it controlling all of the money? Is it on and on and on? Which, by the way, Europe.
Is it, they secretly control things behind the scenes?
By the way, Europe. If you feel like you don't want a particular demographic in charge of all the money, maybe don't make it illegal for every other demographic to run banks.
There you go. Thank you. God.
First, I don't think it's actually a problem, but if it is a problem, it's a problem you created yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's always fun. Like, darn Jews running all the banks in medieval Europe? Yeah, because you
don't
made
make it illegal for Christians to charge interest on things. My goodness. Cognitive Trifurcation is clarifying the idea that religion was inherited, and so they weren't really Christian even after converting. Yeah. So this is my time to be pedantic, since you got to be pedantic earlier.
Okay.
You are correct. Just adding a little bit of extra nuance to that is the idea that your, quote, blood had degrees of purity. That's the Limpia de Sangre laws that they would check. So if you were, say, a Jewish person who converted to Christianity, either voluntarily or by force, you were considered what they called a new Christian. And your kids, for several generations, couldn't do certain professions. And if they wanted to, say, go into the clergy, they would literally check your lineage to see how far back your Christian, ancestry went. Because if it was a little too close to a converted Jew, then, well, you just might be hiding secret Judaizing practices and we can't trust you and stuff. So,
Well, and it
yes,
makes sense, right?
and.
Because the Christian clergy derives its authority from their episcopal lineages, the succession of bishops. And obviously that starts with the apostles, who were themselves already 6th generation Christians, because that's how new religions work. Except, oh wait, no, they were all Jewish converts, weren't they? Weird.
Well,
I guess the entire episcopal succession of the Catholic Church is bunk now under that theory.
man, sometimes if I want a just like burst of hell yeah energy, I'll go through and read some of Nachmanides' disputation responses.
Nachmanides nuts.
Right? No, he was pretty based. He
no
argued
argument.
with a we were talking about this last night on Toast to Toast about how he did engage in one disputation with a Jew who had converted to Christianity, and his Christian name was like Pablo Christianus or something like that, or Pablo Christiani. It was like, oh, your name's
No one knows.
Paul Christian. Like, okay. And yeah, they were discussing like, well, if you don't believe in Messiah, blah, 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 why is this happening? Da, da, da. And, Nachmanides is countering like, oh, okay, well, you said the Messiah has already come, but why is this thing happening, that you said is going to be fixed? So
Prophecy
their
fight.
whole dialogue's really good. So
Sounds like a prophecy fight.
let me get a lot of it was prophecy fights because famously Judaism doesn't agree that most of the Hebrew Bible is a prophecy about Jesus.
I wonder why.
Really.
Shocking. I'm gonna hit play.
Let's see here.
All right, Billy's got to sort out his slideshow.
So he's telling these people, this is my book here, Compendium of the Emerald Tab. It's still a bestseller and now in 6 countries.
How many episodes have we done with this DJ Quicko super chat on the screen the entire stream? It's got to be at least 2 or 3, right?
He's telling us the rulers spread out all over the earth. The rulers. So these are Thoth's people. They spread out all over the planet and created and re-kickstarted civilizations and built civilizations all over the earth based on the same architectural floor plan design, ideologies, and everything else. That's why you see all these things copied everywhere you go on the planet from deep antiquity.
But Billy, the things that people like you point to are just like, they built rock walls and also structures that rise to a point at the top, either smoothly or as a series of terraces. But like, that's just kind of how physics works, right? Like, oh no, we need a retaining wall. How do you build a retaining wall? Well, rocks are an abundant building material, and the bigger the rock is, the better a retaining wall it forms. So you put big old rocks. Like, oh no, we're in an earthquake-prone area. How do we fix this? How do we keep our buildings up? Well, irregular stonework masonry is really good at it because there's no one line along which vibrations can cause the entire thing to crack and fall down because there's no straight lines anywhere. So that's why you get that kind of thing. Why a pyramid? Yeah. Well, because if all you have is stone and you don't have a lot of advanced architectural knowledge about things like pillars and buttresses and whatnot, it's basically the only way to build up is by building a wider base. So you get pyramids. How else could people have done it?
Plus, when it comes to retaining walls, like specifically in Peru, you don't only build the interlocking stones where they, distribute the vibrational energy of an earthquake. You also have a situation where those are just the facing outward stones. Those are like the ones on the very outside. Right behind those is just a pile of freaking rubble-y rocks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something people don't really understand unless you've either been there or seen photos of the site.
Yeah, it's not solid rocks the whole way through.
Pumapunku, yeah, it's not solid rocks all the way through. They would build like a basic retaining wall by piling up just whatever, and then they would put really nice looking facing stones on the outside, and those would be the ones they would carve down to like, irregular shapes. That's why it lasts so long.
By mentioning Pumapunku and the stones, you have reminded me of my favorite thing from Ancient Aliens, which is David Childress stomping around Pumapunku with a carpenter square, saying, look how perfect these angles are. And then he holds the carpenter square up flush against one side
Yes.
of the stone, and it's not flush against the other side too, which means it's not perfectly square. And he's like,
Yeah.
you would need advanced machinery to do this. To do what? Not make square stones? What?
I love when they go to certain places in Egypt and they're measuring like the inside of a sarcophagus lid or the inside of some of those really large tombs. And they're like, look at this perfectly square angle, and you can see the light coming like through the top of the square and the thing, and it's like,
Do you need lessons on how a carpenter square works? Because it seems like you might.
yeah, that's the thing. It's like they want to, when you eyeball it, yeah, it does look like it's a perfect 90-degree angle, but then you use something that actually is a perfect 90-degree angle, and it's not.
Not at all. Yeah, it's close. It's really
Close.
impressive for people who didn't have access
Yeah.
to like reliable machines to machine carpenter's squares. But yeah, it's not perfect. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator, who's been a member for 7 months at the amniote level, says, as a shovel and pick, our technology is restricted to the white dude tech tree. Dev should patch that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And it's one of those things where, like, if
Oh.
all these societies developed with only limited contact, because we know that they didn't have no contact with other societies, because hyper-isolationism is just as dumb as hyper-diffusion, right? So,
Yeah.
but if they developed the way that archaeologists and historians say they did, which is with limited contact, having to invent a lot of things on their own, wouldn't we still expect there to be some convergence in the technology discovered, right? Like, there's only so many ways to pick up rock and put on top of other rock.
Yeah.
Which is the most of the technology that all these ancient aliens, ancient Atlanteans, nonsense peddlers talk about is just like, if not Atlantis, then how people know put rock on top of other rock? I don't know. Must be magic. No, humans are smart. They can figure out how to stack rocks on top of each other. I figured it out myself when I was a kid. Like, it's really not magic to figure out how to put a rock on top of another rock. I don't know I really don't know what the argument is supposed to be. I've never been able to figure out why it's compelling, other than if you just want to believe something that goes against the mainstream narrative. Which I'm pretty sure is what most of it is. It's why it's compelling to people. But that's an obviously bad reason. And I can't figure out if there is a good reason that could even be put forth for this hyper-diffusion claim. For one thing, we know that their writing systems were not generally very similar, nor were their languages. And also, nor is there a genetic trace of these Atlanteans. We don't see some introgression of a single genetic source from some different location into all these civilizations all throughout the world. But we can trace the migrations of other people groups through genetics. Like, the groups of people who were, speaking like Proto-Semitic, they had a particular Y chromosome haplotype. It happens to be J. And we can track the spread of their descendants through history by tracking the J haplogroup in the Y chromosome. And we see it popping up in places like Carthage and Canaan and whatnot. And we notice that those are places that also speak Semitic languages, making a connection between the migration of these people and their languages that they carried with them. That's a thing we can do. Where is that for Atlantis? Nowhere. You know why? Because there never was an Atlantis. Or maybe all the Atlanteans were just really, really, really bad at getting laid. I guess maybe that's an option. Which is weird, given that they were presenting themselves as god kings. If there's one thing I know about humans who present themselves as god kings, is they don't usually have to have game to get laid. They just kind of make commands. Like, you think Genghis Khan became an ancestor of like a third of the world population because he was just so charming? No. Nope.
You're going to find the same building techniques. You're going to find the same pyramids. You're going to find
You're not going to find the same pyramids, though, Billy. Pyramids in ancient Egypt don't look the same as the pyramids in, say, Mesoamerica. They just don't. And the things that people call pyramids in, like, Southeast Asia generally aren't even pyramids. They're temple complexes that have, like, arched domes, which isn't the same thing as a pyramid. So Tatcha for $2 says, Proto-Semitic, I think you mean pre-Yiddish. No, that would be Proto-Germanic, would be pre-Yiddish. Because remember, Yiddish is a Germanic language. that just happens to be written with a script developed for a Semitic language, which is dumb. I'm sorry, Yiddish, but it's silly. I mean, it's also silly to write Germanic with the Latin alphabet. Like, Germanic languages should just get their own alphabet, which they had. They had their own alphabet. But then for some reason, they were like, nah, what if we just use the Latin alphabet? And I mean, the reason is because the scribes were being trained in Latin. I know the reason. It's just a dumb reason. I hate it. Whispers Dats for $2 says, Proto-Semitic? Is that pre-Yiddish? No, that would be Proto-Germanic, everybody. Yiddish is indeed a Germanic language, just like Ladino is a Romance language. Yep. And just like Maltese is an Arabic language, which also makes it Semitic. So, even though it's written, again, with the Latin alphabet. The Latin alphabet needs to chill out. That's what I'm saying. Stop making everything the Latin alphabet. There are other alphabets. They're fine.
Freaking Roman Empire.
In many cases, they're better. It's not just the Roman Empire. It's also goddamn European linguists going around, and whenever they decide, oh, these people need a writing system, using the Latin alphabet as the base. Stop it. Thick Sea Star with 2 C's for 200 Argentinian pesos says Genghis Khan had that Tengric Riz down, dog. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe he just, had the power to compel people to have sex with him, because if he didn't, he was going to kill them and their families. Yeah. Turns out, yeah, that's generally how it works for warlords. Yep.
Yeah.
Like that time Muhammad had sex with a woman on the day that he killed her husband and also tortured her father to death to find his Jew gold. That's a story from the Syrah literature. Fun times. And yes, it was actually to find his Jew gold. It was a Jewish village, and he wanted to find his hidden gold.
Everything, because all was coming from one main source, just with slightly different motif, because everybody wants to put their artistic rendering on something, their little touch on it, right? But what happened? How do we get races of people?
We didn't, Billy. That's the thing. There are no races of people. If there were races, then we would actually find, genetically distinct groups wherein there is less intra-group diversity than there is intra-group diversity, which means there's less diversity inside the group than there is between the groups. But we don't have that in human populations. That's not a thing. So the way that we got genetic races is we didn't. What we got were socially constructed races that were based on superficial phenotypic characters like skin color, face shape, and hair texture. But that's just made up. And it was made up specifically by white supremacists, Billy. They invented their own idea of race in order to be supremacist about it. You don't have to support this. This title for this video is way better than I thought it was going to be. I didn't know we were going to go so far into something that was literally made up in order to give white people an excuse to be racist because they didn't even know what races were because they hadn't invented it yet. And then they did, and they were like, wow, this is super convenient for all our slaving and colonial goals. And don't get me wrong, other people who weren't, Western Europeans have come up with their own reasons for their own imperialistic and slavery, or imperialistic conquests and slavery, right? Like, they came up with other excuses. Europeans were not the first, and they probably won't be the last people to come up with some bullshit excuse to treat other people horribly. But you don't have to feed into any of them, Billy. You don't have to feed into any of them. They're all bullshit. All of those were bad reasons. Just like you don't have to say, well, why is it that the horrible, horrible Muslims started killing all the pilgrims, which they never did? Of course we had to conquer and take over Jerusalem and create the Kingdom of Jerusalem. It's the only option. You don't have to buy into that, Billy. You don't. You don't have to buy into, well, if we don't make captives around the countryside, then the sun god won't send the rains, and then we'll all starve. That's just not true. You don't have to buy into that, Billy. History is full of really shitty ideas to treat other people in horrendous ways. Pro tip, don't buy into any of them. They're all bad reasons. Thick Sea Star with 2 C's Ford 200 Argentinian pesos says, all race classifications are literally, I drew myself as the Chad, and you're the crying soy jack. Yeah, basically. That's that is about the level of intellectual rigor that we're at. Yeah, yeah. It's just early modern soy jacks.
We got races of people because these people who spread out around the planet from Thoth, these Atlantean people, they put a genetic marker on the people that they ruled over in that region.
So wait, is he saying the Atlanteans genetically engineered the races? Truth.
Jesus.
Sapphire Turtle Light True for $2 says, I stand for, and then sends, I don't remember the name of that rune, and Hardcore Thorn. And please, remind me what the name of that rune is, because I don't remember it. I do remember Thorn, though. Tasha for $2 says, races are genetic, Orc, Eldar, Necron, human. You can't say the Necron are genetic, because they don't have genes anymore. But otherwise, yeah. And I guess, at least in 40k, you can go with abhumans. Like, Ogrins would be a different race than Ratlings. Than, baseline humans. Or than the kin. Shh! Don't tell the Imperium that the kin are actually abhumans. Keep that on the DL. Otherwise, they might get in trouble for all that AI that they're definitely using.
So the guy that went to go rule over the people in Asia, he put a genetic marker on them. They became Asian.
Billy, they would have already been Asian because they were living in Asia, and that's what it actually means to be Asian. But we also know when a lot of these genetic markers pop up, and we know what genes mutated and whatnot. What possible evidence does he have that these were things that all happened at the same time when Atlantis sank? Because we actually happen to know that most of the phenotypic things, like differences in skin color and whatnot, happen at different times in different places for different reasons, and we know what the mutations were. In fact, we actually know that people in East Asia, in places like Korea and China and Japan, have pale skin for a different genetic reason than the people in Western Europe have pale skin. And we know which things mutated, and about how long ago they mutated in order to produce that phenotype. How are you going to counter any of this, Billy? Are you going to point out any of these studies? Are you going to tell us which studies you've done?
Would require him knowing that those studies exist.
Yeah, or even just acknowledging that evidence is a thing that he should probably provide. Let's see. Stan. Oh, that makes sense. I stand for Stan and Hardcore Thorn. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that, Truth Sapphire. I don't remember the names of all the runes. I do know the Elder Futhark well enough to be able to write at least English in it. But I don't remember the names of all the runes. It's sort of I can usually figure out what a word is supposed to at least sound like in Hebrew, but I frequently misname the letters because I have in my brain the Arabic names for the letters. And so, yeah, that gets me in trouble every once in a while.
There are cases where they are the same, like Ein.
Ein is basically the same. Some of them are very similar, like mem versus meme, versus just the vowel is different. But then I've been corrected. I'm like, it's not meme, it's mem. I'm like, I'm sorry, I have the Arabic names in my brain. And I don't know what to tell you because I spent way longer looking at Arabic.
And the thing is I'm getting more familiar with Arabic as I go, but it's if you say meme instead of mem, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they do both descend from the same, proto-Sinaitic letter, or the same sound.
He put a genetic marker on Europeans, various different types of Europeans.
Oh, so now there's different genetic markers for different parts of Europe? How granular are we getting, Billy? Is anything in human genetics the result of, mutations, the kind of thing that we see happening right now in humans? Any of it? Because that's another thing. We can just watch mutations happen. Why is that not an adequate explanation?
That whoever ruled over that big landmass probably was 2 or 3 in that region. In Africa,
is Billy buying into the nonsense that Europeans are more diverse than other groups of people? Because I only see that from white supremacists. Look how diverse Europeans are. Yeah, everyone's that diverse. You're just not used to looking at people from different countries in, say, East Asia or, Western Africa or something, so that you can easily distinguish them by sight. They can't distinguish Europeans by sight either. It's like when people try to tell me, Koreans and the Japanese, they look the same. I'm like, no, they don't.
No, they don't.
What are you talking about? And I've had people be like, yeah, I can't tell them apart at all. I'm like,
What?
really? Because they don't look very much alike at all. I'm like, no.
I mean,
Okay.
if you want to compare like Thai or Vietnamese or Filipinos, they don't look the same to Chinese or Japanese at all.
No. But even
They
Korea
vary.
and Japan don't look the same, even though, like,
Nope.
genetically, they're not super distant. But, like, yeah.
Just terrible.
I think Billy is just buying into the white supremacist nonsense of there being this wonderful array of diversity in Europe that's unique. It's like, bro, it's just a few extra hair colors that most places don't have. That's pretty much it. It's not even all places don't have. There are places other than Ireland with red hair. Well, other than
And
Ireland
it's
and Scotland.
also, there are things like the length and shape of your nose also has a lot to do with the climate that your people have been living in for a long time.
Yep.
Like, there's a reason that tropical and equatorial climates have populations with a shorter and broader nose than people who live at, extreme latitudes where it's cold as heck.
Fits of Rage 23, who's been a member for 23 months, says, I'm doing my part to keep the drink counter going so we can continue putting up with this crap. AIG is a bag of white-footed a-holes. They absolutely are. And then there's a Godzilla, and yeah. And the thing that bugs me is when, like, look, I get why some white people push white supremacist nonsense. I don't get it when people who aren't white do it. I really don't. Like, what do you think you're accomplishing? Tasha for $2 says, I have to do anything but this. Good luck, have fun, everyone. Yeah, sorry, Tasha. I believe me, I get it.
Bad.
I do actually have another video lined up for after this that is not just a bunch of thinly veiled white supremacy stuff that's been twisted in order to appeal to African Americans.
They put a genetic marker on us, and so everywhere you go, you find that now post flood, post alluvial Africa, the re-kickstarting of civilization there, the people were already black. They didn't have to put a genetic marker on the black people; they were already black.
Oh, so that's where we're gonna get the afrocentrism aspect in it. Is the black people were already genetically distinct enough to not need a genetic marker. What genetic distinctive marker was it that they already had? That the aliens didn't need to, or the Atlanteans or whomever didn't need to add anything? I don't know. I'll say this. All non-Africans are more closely related to each other than any two random Africans are, so there's way more genetic diversity in Africa. So if anything, if you wanted to have some kind of particular genetic marker, it would probably be more important to do it there, because it's harder to find single markers that you can find over some large area in Africa than, say, in Europe. Because again, most human genetic diversity exists within Africa. And it's not even like by like a small margin. It's by a lot. It's a really big margin. So like is that all it is? Is the marker diversity? Is that really what it is?
At the time. So my ancestors were already black. Now the other race.
You know what, Billy? That's true. Your ancestors were already black. I'll give you that one. Let's take a drink. Good job, buddy. Your ancestors living in an area with high incidence of UV light had dark skin in order to protect them from that. That is true.
Races were kind of branded like you brand a cow, right? So
okay. So it's not just a mark of who's ruling over. It's a slave mark, because that's what that means. The aliens are treating all the other races as chattel, but not the Africans. They're too cool. They don't get treated by the aliens that way. Even though humans were created as a slave race already, so shouldn't all of them have been branded there, Billy? Since, that was the whole point of your story, is that all humans were created as a slave race? I don't know. Who cares, right? Why bother being consistent with any of this? I hate where this has gone. I didn't remember it going here. Oh, this is bad. I'm gonna take another drink just to cool off from the absurdity of this. My goodness.
in the indigenous Americas. They were branded. Now, the people who ruled over them looked just like them. So they gave them a genetic marker that gave them the likeness of the person that was ruling over them, because the people that were ruling over these regions all looked different.
But how, Billy? If they're all coming from a single city-state, how are they maintaining that difference in appearance? Like, I don't know if you know, but as a group of people live together, or as groups of people, start to live together, they tend to have sex together. Because if there's one thing that's consistent about humans throughout their history, is that they tend to be kind of horny, and not nearly as picky as they like to pretend that they are. And so, how does that work? You would have to have enforced segregation. Do you really think that you want the source of all civilization to have been a racially segregated, with miscegenation laws society, Billy? Is that what you think is the source of all civilization? Seems like a weird take to me. Because frankly, I kind of hate that the word miscegenation is even a word that exists. Because all it means is marriages I don't like.
They all had different faces, different skin, different everything. And so we know that the blacks were there before, because the Sumerian tablet calls them the blackface people. They were there prior to the flood.
Billy, wouldn't that mean then that the Sumerians were distinct from them because they're identifying another ethnic group by their appearance? That wouldn't work if the pre-flood Sumerians weren't also genetically, distinct in appearance, which is going to have a genetic component. So that means it couldn't have just been the black people who were there beforehand. That doesn't make any sense. Like, you don't identify other ethnic groups according to something they have in common with you. Like, what sense would that make? You don't see, like the ancient, say, like, Chinese word for people from, like, Korea isn't going to be, like, the people with the epicanthic folds. Because they've all got the epicanthic folds. What are you going to do? Take another drink. This is getting way too terrible. I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And so, but the other races were all, marked. They were all marked. And what does this mean? Geneticists found these differences. Now, about 10, 12 years ago when I was researching this, it was only 2%. Because of genetics have gone so great now, so specific, geneticists found that the majority of genetic differences between humans is 85.4%.
Okay, yep, we're going to take another drink because Billy is pulling a Jeffrey Tompkins here. So that's fun.
Oh my god, yeah.
Billy, that 2% number is still valid because that was 2% within a particular subset of the genome, which is to say, within the variable regions of the protein coding portions of the genome. The 5.4% is whole genome comparisons, which includes the non-functional regions. And here's a cool thing about non-functional regions of DNA. They can't account for racial differences because they don't have any effect on phenotype, and races are something that people intuit based off phenotypic characteristics, which means that whatever genetic underlying reason there is for these differences can't be in the non-functional regions, which is where the majority of this 85.4% that you're talking about is found, Billy. Now, I get why most people might not realize that, right? Because that's a pretty deep into the weeds genetics thing. And the only reason I get it is because I run a channel that talks about this kind of stuff. But Billy, if you're going to just put that out there, maybe run it by a geneticist. I don't know. Maybe. Because what you're doing here is just misinforming people about genetic diversity. And also, like I said, this difference is not grouped into groups that have less intergroup diversity than there is intra-group diversity. Which means there still aren't races. And you can tell because the majority of genetic differences between humans, that is the number between any two average humans. That's about how much difference you're going to find in a whole genome comparison. That doesn't mean that you're detecting racial categories. That means you're taking a random person from, like, say, Ghana, and then a random person from, say, like, I don't know, Australia, And you're finding that they have about 85.4% of their genome as identical on a whole genome comparison. And then you take someone from like Alaska, and then you take someone from like, I don't know, Siberia. Well, no, that would be a bad example because those two would actually probably be very closely related. Siberia, and then, I don't know, Germany. And you're going to find about that much. I can't believe I picked Siberia and Alaska. Places where like the Siberians are the people who moved into Alaska to create the Alaskan groups. Oops.
Well,
Next thing you know, I'm going to pick like Iran and India as hugely diverse places that are very different and have no relation between each other. No.
We're found 85.4% were found within a population. 8.3% were found between populations within a race. Okay, so between races, in other words, between a black person, a Caucasian, an Asian, an indigenous, native, right, of the Americas.
So we're talking about within groups that are related more closely than they would be to a random human on average. Which there are groups like that. Thick C star with 2 C's for 100 Argentinian pesos says, see how the serfs work the ground? Tompkins. Is that boss music? Alright, here we go.
For example, you're going to find the Mongolian and South Asian and Aboriginals and everything else. There's an 8.3% variance in the genetic code. Now,
okay, I want to point out what I was saying before, that there is that you would need to find less within group differences than between group differences in order for you to say that races are a real thing. Let's hear what he's going to say if he continues reading this.
8.3% is way higher than even 2% when I first learned about this about 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, because that was a different measurement, but who cares? We've covered it.
They got it now to a specific number, 8.3%. They really dug into this. In order for a person to be 8.3% different than you genetically, it would take multi-millions of years.
No, it wouldn't. Just drink. No, it wouldn't. It would take tens of thousands up to maybe 100,000 years. You know why we know that? Because that's how long it took, Billy.
Maybe hundreds of millions of years of evolution.
Billy, 100 million years ago, primates hadn't diverged from other euarchontoglires. So no, Billy. 100 million years is enough time to get you more than a genetic difference between a human and a rabbit.
If you want to believe the Darwinianism method, hundreds of millions of years for it to happen.
Cool. Where's your estimates, Billy? What papers did you publish to give these estimates? Oh, none? You're just making them up? Cool.
Yet, Homo sapiens sapien has only been here for 200,000 years.
200 to 300,000.
Which is the time in the book of the Epic of Atrahasis that I read to you 200,000 years ago when they were going to go to war against Enlil and Enki, and they decided to genetically modify people and use the.
Okay, I guess he's not going to talk about it. Maybe because it would break his whole idea. But look what the next line is there.
yeah.
So there's 8.3% difference were found between populations within a race, and 6.3% were found to differentiate races, which means that there is not more genetic diversity. Sorry, there's not less genetic diversity inside of groups than there is without them. There's more inside than there is between them, which is the opposite of what you would need to find for races to be real. His data that he's presenting here without a source directly contradicts the idea that races are real. If you swap those numbers, then you could make the argument that maybe races are real. Wouldn't be a great argument because it's still not really that much of a difference, but you could at least say that these are distinct genetic populations that really exist. But you can't here, because this is the opposite of the data that you would want to see if that hypothesis were true. So Billy is showing you the reason that geneticists know that races are not a real biological entity in humans. And he's just saying the opposite thing. So, yeah, that's gross.
Existing hominid and make them the worker bee. Okay?
No, it's
So
not okay, Billy.
It's aligning with the tablets. The races are aligning with what goes on in the animal tablets of Thoth.
Nothing about that was in anything that you read, Billy. So I'm not going to go by your book, but from what you read, nothing here that you're talking about is even in that in the first place. Which is weird, given that it was your book, and that since you don't care about lying, you could have just put it in there anyway. But you didn't.
If you go into these ancient texts, you find out everything. 8.3% variance. Now we're all humans. We're still all humans. But to get a race variant, it requires 8.3% variation to create different.
No, Billy, it doesn't require that. There's no one particular requirement. What it is that's the number that you have found, and it contradicts the idea of there being races given the next number. Which I'm going to take another drink. Jeez. It's like finding out that your chair, the seat of your chair, is like, I don't know, 30 centimeters lower than the height of your table, and you're like, see, what it takes to be a table is to be 30 centimeters higher than a chair. No, that just happens to be what your chair and your table were. It's not some requirement of the universe to create chairs and tables. I thought I was exaggerating a little bit when I talked about, like, you know, the Mount Rushmore means that only humans can create cliffs. But no, that's just the argument he's making here. If there happens to be this particular number, then that just has to be the actual number that's required somehow. Like, if it were 83.2, then it wouldn't count as races. But you know that's not true. He'd say the same thing.
Different races, so that people's eyes go up, people's eyes goes down. They slant one way, they don't slant this way. The skin color is...
Actually, most eyes don't actually particularly slant. That's more of an optical illusion. Yeah. Which, to be fair, isn't one that was invented by Europeans. If you actually look at, like, older East Asian art, people are often depicted with slanted eyes in that art that was created long before extensive contact between Europe and East Asia had been created. So, like, it's a common thing to see as an optical illusion, but it is still technically an optical illusion. Most people have eyes that are pretty horizontal.
This way, this amount of melanin versus this amount of melanin, this skin tone versus this skin tone.
I'm going to give Billy props in being someone who's into afro-centric conspiracies, who does not pretend that white people don't produce melanin. Because I've run across a lot of those. People who say, like, white people don't have melanin. I'm like, what?
They would be albinos.
They would be albinos, right? They have hair that isn't white, and their skin isn't just white. It has, like, freckles and it tans. That's melanin. I'm like, nope, they don't have melanin. I'm like, okay, cool. And I came across one person who was like, and that's why they don't have a soul, because melanin makes your soul. I was just like, oh, some random pigment protein makes your soul, huh? Okay, cool. Good to know. So does that mean the darker your skin is, the more of a soul you have? Is this just like some weird version of colorism I'm unfamiliar with? And of course, no. No, that's not how it works. And then no explanation was provided. Oh. Hey. It turns out that when your response to actual real systemic injustice and racism is to just adopt the framing mechanism of the people who were doing the systemic racism, it doesn't actually make you any smarter or make you make sense or make you right, nor is it really a good way to base your resistance against that systemic oppression. It doesn't help any. It just makes everything worse. So don't do that. Don't adopt the talking points of white supremacists and just race swap it. You're not helping when you do that.
This bone structure versus this bone structure. All right, this kind of hair versus this kind of hair, 8.3%. Hundreds of millions of years.
No, Billy, that would be the 6.3% number that you're not going over, because you're talking about the differences between races or across races, not the differences within races, which is what the 8.3% that you're talking about is, which is the problem for you. You wrote this on your own damn slide, Billy, and you don't even know what you wrote. I mean, he almost certainly copy-pasted it, to be fair. Lieutenant Matt the
Can
Navigator.
we wrap this? My head hurts.
Yeah, we'll wrap. In fact, I'm not even sure we're going to continue on with the extra 3 minutes
this
here.
is too much.
But here's what we are going to do. We're going to skip ahead until, there we go. DJ Quicko is gone.
Good.
It took Billy until 2 minutes and 41 minutes left in his stream to figure out how to get rid of the DJ Quicko super chat.
And it's only because he stopped sharing anything.
Right. Probably. Although, actually, I'm not positive that's how StreamYard works. Anyway, Lieutenant Matt's Navigator for $2 says, high melanin content makes soul food, not souls. To some extent, although actually what soul food is just like low-cost Southern cooking. And there are some white Southerners who can make some damn good what would otherwise be called soul food.
I would say primarily it came out of the black community, but there are some white folks who grew up po that know how to make soul food.
Oh yeah. That's why if I'm in the South and I go into a restaurant and I get grits, I don't care if the chef is black or white. If I'm not in the South and I want grits and I notice that the chef is white, I'm just not going to bother. Because they're going to make their grits runny.
Yeah.
White people outside the South don't know how to make grits. They always make it too runny.
If they even know what grits are.
Yeah, there's that too.
What's a grit?
Thanks, my cousin Vinny. What is a grit?
Jeez.
That's a great movie. Yeah, so that's my advice for anyone outside of the US South if you want grits. Check to see if the chef who's making the grits is black. If he's not, maybe don't go with the grits, because it's going to be runny. It's just how it is. My test is I pick up some grits with a spoon, and it should keep the mound of grits on the spoon. If it runs off the spoon, too runny.
Yeah, correct.
So that is the test for good grits. I'm trying to make grits in forever. I should make grits again. I'll put some grits on my wish list. But I'm lazy enough to use like bulk instant grits. I don't care. It's like, oh, but they're instant. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to sit here for like an hour and a half boiling grits. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen.
I'm such a simple person. Like, I don't even need fancy stuff on my grits. Just give me a little butter. I'm good to go.
I would take some salt and pepper on there too, but yeah. Yep. It doesn't need to be fancy cheesy grits or anything. Although, I'm not going to say no to a bowl of cheesy grits.
That is pretty tasty.
Now I'm just getting hungry thinking about like grits and like hush puppies and fried catfish.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Hush puppy. Man,
When I was in Alabama last, I had every single day I was there. I had fried catfish and hush puppies, or at least one meal every single day.
I can't say a whole lot of positive things about Alabama, but one thing we do well is fried catfish and hush puppies.
Oh yeah,
I'll give them that.
So good. Oh, and a side of collard greens.
Yeah, collard greens.
Yeah. Every single day, and I went there to a restaurant recommended by one of my friends who has family in the area, and that's the restaurant they go to. So I was like, all right, I'll check it out.
Live on a lake, and we would take his boat to this restaurant. Like, you can drive there, but most people just take their boats, and like they would serve all sorts of like catfish. For whatever reason, they just marinated their hamburgers really well, so I really, really love their hamburgers. But it's savory. If you marinate any kind of red meat and make it like really savory or like black peppery, I'm eat it.
All right, well, we're going to wrap things up here. Kip apparently couldn't make it, and that's okay. He is spending time with his family in a happy circumstance. Again, not a sad circumstance. Everybody's fine. So, Vishanti, do you have anything come up that you want to tell people about before we get out of here?
Mostly just go watch my collab with Fossil Daddy, where we take a massive shit on L.A. Marzulli because he deserves it.
Yes.
And Kip cut down a segment of his video where we were talking about the vision in Isaiah, and it's got big dick energy. So if you want to, get in on that, go watch it on his channel. So.
All right, but what if ChatGPT disagrees with the interpretation that you gave in that video? Then what?
I'll listen to clankers.
All right. Good to know.
And
right.
yeah, the wish list.
Yes, it is linked in the description. At least I believe it is. Let me double check. I thought I made a point of putting it in there. It is, yep. And a link to Kip's new book, by the way, is in there.
Yeah!
Propaganda, Pulling the Curtain, longer title there. Check that out. There's linked in the description. It is not a affiliate link. That is just a link to the Amazon location. I'm not making money if you buy it that way. So, I put it there. I was hoping that Kip could actually plug the book when he was here today, but we'll give him next week. He can plug the book then. All right, so what's coming up here on this channel? Let's see. Tuesday, we are doing Matt with Maddie. Yes, Matt with Maddie. I do believe I've double-checked with Maddie on that, and she is good for that, although I hope she's feeling better, because she was not feeling well at all earlier in the week, so maybe, I don't know, maybe she won't be there. If she won't, we'll have something else. Maybe I'll, harangue Vishanti back into being on the show for something else on Tuesday, possibly. I'll guilt trip her, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, that definitely works.
Yeah. I mean, you say that, but also you've been on several times on Tuesday when I needed an emergency guest.
Yeah, but you didn't guilt me into doing it.
It's true, I just asked nicely.
You just asked.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, okay.
So then on Thursday, we've got Walter Veith Doesn't Understand Taxonomy, which is the next part of the Walter Veith thing. And by the way, I didn't know a damn thing about Walter Veith when I made this, except what I saw in that video. And people have in the comments been informing me, people who are mostly ex-Seventh-day Adventists, just how much worse I thought that Walter Veith was. He's banned from Germany, Vish. Would you like to guess why? I'll take that as
tell me.
Holocaust denial.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a special kind of shitty.
Yeah. So Walter Veith is a way bigger piece of shit than I thought. Because, like I said, the only information I had about this guy was his appearance in this video specifically.
Gross.
And I looked up what his degree was. Like, that's it. Yeah, turns out way worse than I was thinking. So, yeah.
It's like, oh, you real scum.
He'd even get kicked off of Ben Shapiro's network.
Woo!
Yeah.
All right, well.
Yeah, because if there's one thing Ben Shapiro isn't a fan of, it's Holocaust denial, which makes sense.
Correct.
Yeah. I'll give him that one. At least he's not into Holocaust denial, which, I mean, being Jewish, it would be hard to do, but I wouldn't put it past Ben, to be fair. Anyway, so yeah, that's on Thursday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, I know how time zones work. Then on Friday, we are hoping to have the next episode of Star Trek Adventures. This is going to be the first part of a 3-parter. We may or may not be introducing a main new character. We have to see who's around, what things are going on there. But we're having to swap out a cast member. So one person is exiting the show, sadly, but we are adding a new one. And this is a sneak peek here. New cast member, Dr. Kip Davis, will be joining us as a regular cast member for Star Trek Endurance. So he has a character already made, and we just had to find out a good time to introduce him. He's he's in the server. He's got the right role, and I think he's in the Roll20 game already. I'm not positive on that, though. So, yeah, sadly, someone had to step away. So we are going to be releasing a video that kind of bridges that gap for him stepping away, where his character is going, that kind of thing. And that'll be released as soon as Chesh gets me the art asset I need. So once again, if you see her online, you can be like, hey, where's the Commander Va with the comms badge art that Dapper needs? Or don't actually harass Chesh.
Yeah, she won't do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll harass her about it. Let's see. Then on Saturday, a week from today, we will be back with a new video. We're not going to keep going with this Billy Carson video where it's just
nonsense.
Him trying to take seriously racist nonsense ideology that there's no good reason to take seriously, especially if you're a historically minoritized racial group. Right? Like, of all the times to take racist nonsense seriously, that's not one of those times, is when you happen to be part of the marginalized groups that were marginalized on the basis of made-up racism nonsense. Because remember, races were made up to be racist about. The reason that people think about races as existing is because people want to be racist, to excuse slavery and colonialism. At least they bothered to have an excuse. I mean, to be fair, the Romans didn't. There was like, an excuse? No, we're just going to colonize and take slaves. We don't need an excuse. Which also reminds me of the craziest conspiracy theory about Christianity I've ever heard of, which was that Christianity was invented by the Romans to excuse taking slaves. And I was like, I'm sorry, do you think the Romans needed an excuse?
Okay.
What is happening right now? Yeah, that one was
Wow.
Yeah, that was a special kind of crazy right there. Like, of all the reasons that Christianity could have been invented, that is the least of the most not a reason that has ever existed. Romans needing an
I need to go
excuse.
lay down.
All right, everybody, we're going to be doing the final 4 episodes of Season 2 of Dino Fury, Power Rangers Dino Fury, over on my Discord. So come hang out for that if you want. And if not, then please just have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Stay safe out there. And here's the outro, everybody. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Ben Tovand, Tapioca Weasel, Arrow Dodger, Caleb Anderson, Dan Sheedy, Elleron Teller, Phil Cavara, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostock Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabdy Babdy, Sphincter of Doom, Volis, North Texas Fossils, and John Ackerman. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.